In this session, we will talk about the rapid advancements in AI and how to navigate this new world as a content creator. And I have a fellow Swede here, Linus Ekenstam, with me. And I found him on, I believe he was on Twitter because he has a pretty decent following there of, well over 100,000 people. Then I've checked out some of his content. It's really, really useful. So I thought I'd bring him on for this session to talk more about AI and how he's using this in his business. I think he's also building like an AI startup and stuff like that. I'm sure he can tell us a little bit more what he's doing. So, with that being said, warm welcome, Linus.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Yeah. I'm a bit of a jack of all trades, right? So I do a
Yeah,
lot of
I mean,
things.
I read. I thought like your bio covered a lot of stuff because you have like been a designer at Flowdesk, which is like an email marketing platform. You have bedtimestory.ai. I mean, you can tell us a little bit
Yeah.
more, maybe how you got into AI and like maybe that has been playing a role in the previous job positions because I know you quit your job. You are like self-employed right now. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, tell me a little bit more about
Um,
that.
I think if we just reverse a bit.
Yeah.
I think my current journey started maybe back in 2015, 2014, when I first started to work at Typeform. Typeform.com is like a data collection company where you can build really nice forms. And that kind of pushed me in that direction to focus more on SaaS companies and working inside of SaaS companies as a designer. And then this whole AI thing was kind of a serendipitous situation because I had some friends that was building things using AI back in 2018, 2017. Very rudimentary things like using AWS, using Google, like just patching things together, like no LLMs whatsoever. Um, and when I decided to quit Flowdesk, it was like, I need to do something. And I started to build bedtime stories because I wanted to kind of like dip my toes into working with these products or this new technology that everyone else was kind of like started to tinker with. And that led to me starting to every day kind of have like a aha moment, like, oh, this is possible. Oh, I can do this. Oh shit! Like everything was just like when more people realize this is possible, things are going to change, fundamentally change from the ground up. We haven't seen a technology come along like this in my lifetime that has this kind of impact on so many verticals at the same time. So that led me to kind of start sharing and constructing content in an educational way that made sense to kind of like consume quickly on Twitter or X. Um, and that just kind of grew organically. And I think it was a lot of luck, like timing, just the right person at the right place at the right time, basically. And then just continued on that. So if it wasn't for me trying to build my own thing, I would never kind of end up in this situation where I think now it's like 140,000 people follow me on
Yeah.
X, and yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, it's a ton of things.
No, I mean that's awesome because you have a pretty engaged following there, and I think you started also building on some other platforms, but mainly on X now. I
Yeah.
sometimes I say Twitter, but yeah, X. Yeah, it's kind of strange sometimes, but yeah, it's X. And so what have you seen kind of in your previous companies? Did they already, because I know Timeform and some companies we are already, some software companies we are already using in our business, like for example Canva. They're now like
Mm,
going all in with AI. So there's
yeah.
obviously AI platforms coming out, left and right, but there's tools we are probably already used to that just integrating AI, like maybe Typeform and companies you worked for. Did you see already they were working on this, so you got an interest into the AI landscape already when you're working as an employee for these companies?
Yeah, I mean, Typeform was they weren't that early on applied AI. They were doing some stuff with machine learning. But I think now they've gone all in, like now, like recently, which is very interesting because I think it's a perfect company to do so. Um,
Sure.
but and at Flowdesk, even they were trying to do things with AI, but it was like a bit hesitant. Like people were a bit like they wanted to wait and see. And I'm not sure what their stance is right now. So I think it was more my friends that kind of one guy that left Typeform in 2017 that built a transcript company basically that he exited just recently. And he kind of like pushed me in the direction of starting to build things in the AI space. So he's like one of the early guys that already had an exit, right? So it's like very interesting to see that
Yeah.
that whole journey as well. Obviously, like machine learning is nothing new, I think,
Yeah.
but what we're seeing now is kind of the advert of generative AI and kind of the rapid increase of use of
Uh-huh.
large language models across the board in every single application, right? It's everywhere.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's like just going more mainstream. I mean, there's, huge companies like they have been using this for, 20 plus years. I mean, Google and everything with search and stuff like that. It's just like it's getting more, when you see a sales page or for a SaaS now, they're mentioning AI more prominent. They have probably been using it in some shape or form, right?
yeah,
I mean, that's pretty normal that they do that. So I think that is just changing a little bit. But like you have worked like as a product designer for different companies, and maybe you're doing some stuff now with your own company. What kind of impact are you seeing on, I guess, the creator economy, and I mean designers, content creators and stuff like that, when it comes to now AI becoming so more mainstream? At least, I mean, there's a lot of people who doesn't know how to use it, but I think it's getting, everyone pretty much knows what ChatGPT is. At least maybe they don't know how to use it, that's another thing, but
yeah.
that at least they know what it is, right? So what do you have to say around
I,
that?
I think that's also like maybe a misconception. Push back a bit there. Like a lot of people knows, but there it's not even a majority. Like not even
Yeah.
50%. I think there was some recent numbers being released that like one third of people
Mm-hmm.
knows about ChatGPT or have seen ChatGPT in a media article or actually
Yeah.
visited the website. But then there are some active users. Like the numbers is like 5% of the American population has used
Yeah.
ChatGPT, for
I
example.
think it's like the business owners, like I read some studies around this, like in terms of business owners, a lot of them of course knows, but I think, yeah, general population working at a supermarket or something like that, they might not be, they don't see the use
Mm,
case. Maybe they will be replaced
exactly.
by AI, but
No, oh, hopefully not.
yeah.
I think yeah. So if we look at the kind of business space and the entrepreneurial space, of course, a lot of people, as I say, majority of people
Yeah.
knows that it exists, and the majority of people have potentially used it in one way or another. But the big culprit is that people don't know how to use it,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like if you have a SaaS product that is too kind of horizontal, that can fit in so many different verticals. The problem for that SaaS company is often how to communicate or how to market themselves, because it's a like Notion, for example. You can use Notion in so many ways, and same with Typeform. You can Typeform in so many ways. So it becomes a little bit of an issue of positioning. And I think kind of ChatGPT or OpenAI with their API with GPT-4 and GPT 3.5 kind of has a similar issue where there's so much you can do with it, because it's like just one endpoint, like text in and then text out, and that text could be anything. Could be code, could be
Yeah.
text, and you can chain things in infinity. You can like build super complex workflows. You can combine it with other services. So it's almost like when you have infinite choices, you don't really know where to start. And if you start off in a bad way, like you go in with a preconception idea that like this is the way I think this will work. You go into ChatGPT, you type something, and the stuff you get back is horrible. And then you go, I had a shitty first experience. This sucks, and you don't go back to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a lot of people have that experience, and I see this every single day. People will reach out to me and say like, hey, I have this problem, I'm trying to do this, and this is what I'm getting back, and they share with me what they how they got the result. And I'm not laughing against them. It's like I'm laughing because I've seen it so many times, and I'm like,
Right.
you only need to push them or nudge them in a little bit of a direction, and then the light bulb kind of goes on, and they go like, oh fuck, I understand now. It's
Mm-hmm.
this way it's supposed to be done. um, and I think
Yeah.
when people get over that kind of initial that hurdle, they kind of 5x themselves within a week or two just by using the tool in a better way. So
Yeah, no, no, I completely agree with you. And it's really interesting that you say this, because I see this also like when I talk to people and things like that. They might not get, it's like garbage in, garbage out, basically. It's like what you
yes,
make of it. And there are some other tools that I think a lot of people are building on top of OpenAI and like the API and stuff like that. These companies are not, you know, I mean, there are some are great, but there are like companies who actually do a good job at that. Like, for example, Content at Scale, that didn't just build on top. You can actually write really useful things that can
mm,
actually, that is not just what ChatGPT might come out. It will take you forever to do what content at scale does. For example, I can put the video we are doing now, I can upload it to YouTube, and then I can take a link from there, just put it in content at scale, say I want like an in-depth blog post in Neil Patel style. It will give me that. That
Yeah,
it's not really possible unless you spend a lot of time in ChatGPT. It will take way more
exactly.
prompting and stuff like that. So I think
Yes.
there's really useful tools like that for a specific use case. I think they will thrive, but tools that might just build on top, I mean, they might. I don't know if there's too many of them. I don't know what you think about this.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is like Content at Scale, for example, they've spent a lot of time doing prompt engineering. Like they are doing complex flows
Of
with
course.
the same kind of APIs. Even if they're not using Open AI, they might be using a collection of APIs. They
Yeah.
might be using Open AI. They might be using Claude from Anthropic. But the thing when you chain the commands, right? When you take some data, you transform it or translate it or skew it or work with it, and you put it through like a sequence of things, obviously on the other end will come something useful. So the larger the black box that you as a company create around the underlying technology, because the way you can look at it is like OpenAI or Anthropic or any other like large language model, open sourced or not, basically it's like a fundamental layer similar to like how AWS or Azure or Google Cloud is providing you an instance in the cloud to run your services, right? It's basically another very core level to how we build software. Um,
Hmm.
so the I definitely think winners will be like companies that are coming in, finding a niche or finding a very specific use case and just make the best product for that problem, and manage to kind of like pierce through and get kind of
Hmm.
a customer base. They will have high defensibility because the more they work on improving their kind of offering, the harder it will get for others to come in and copy it. Um, and the fundamental layer is so easy for this company to change. If GPT-5 gets released and it's a better, let's say, assume it's better. The numbering of the sequencing of the models might not actually mean shit, but we just assume that a year from now we have something that's better than GPT-4. Um, all of these companies will get an upgrade almost for free overnight. It's just like
Exactly.
you're just switching out
Amazing.
the brain basically.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's really amazing, and I think like for example, I mean, just because we talked about this, content at scale is not a cheap AI tool. There's way cheaper ones. This is like a like this. If you have a specific use case for a tool, like this is to replace your writers, and how much does a really good writer cost? It's quite expensive. You would
It's
probably
quite
pay a few hundred for a really good in-depth blog post, per article. So if content at scale can do, I don't know, 20 to 50 for like 1,000 a month, what is that? That is pretty damn cheap. You would never
very
get
cheap.
that. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So that is kind of how you can market. And I think the more specific the better, like when you have a really key use case. But I see like a lot of tools that might do the same thing. I see a lot of YouTube summary tools and stuff like
Yeah.
that, like I don't know, like plugins for extensions for Chrome and stuff like that. I think these will not thrive for too long unless they're like developing something that is more unique to the marketplace. I don't know if you have
I
used
think
some of these. They actually slow down. I was testing a bunch of these lately, and they just slowed down my entire entire Chrome experience. I couldn't even write on Facebook because they were like integrating everywhere, and they were like horrible. So I just deleted them. So.
Yeah, I think it comes back to kind of like, finding a good problem space, even if it's an AI product or not. Like when you're
Hmm.
building products, you need to have a good problem definition. You need to know who you're building for. You need to know your customer. And if you do that and you build a solution that your customer wants, I don't think it matters if it's a Chrome plugin or
Yeah.
if it's a new website or if it's a mobile app. If you're solving a problem, people will line up to pay, if you're hitting the nail right. I think what we're seeing with kind of the explosion of similar apps is basically what's happening every single time there's a new a new thing or a new medium or a new thing pops up. We're going to see the same when Apple Vision Pro gets released, even though the initial release of that headset will be a small release. Apple is pushing their vision, so 5 years from now, we'll look back and you'll see that like, oh, there was like 500 apps released to the Vision Pro, all doing the same thing, but only one or two managed to
Yeah.
pull through and become like the leaders of the category. I
Yeah.
think we see this a lot with SaaS companies. There is like one category king, like one leader in each kind of big vertical, and then you have like the piranhas coming in from underneath. When the big leader move upstream in the marketplace, they go enterprise. They lose kind of the small and medium businesses that they attracted in the first place, and you have these new upcomers coming from underneath. And you will have like each vertical supporting hundreds or even thousands of companies, but like the top five or top 10 companies will eat 80% of the revenue. So it is very interesting to see what's going to happen to the AI
Yeah.
space, because we're in the early days. Like the verdict is still out. Like I said, 5%, 10% of the global population have
Yeah.
tried these tools. So you can imagine, like when we get to like a 95%.
But it's the same with like online business, for example, courses. We see it like everywhere, but it's like still. I mean, it's a multi billions of billions of dollars in the industry, right? And AI is like crazy. I think it will be trillion. The maybe we'll have a trillionaire or something like that with AI. I mean, that's
For
some
sure,
people.
for
I mean,
sure.
yeah, I'm sure it will happen because there's some big names are predicting this. Like the first trillionaire will be in AI. I think Mark Cuban said something about this, which is
Yes,
really interesting.
highly,
But
it's very true.
yeah, I mean, I do think like a lot of tools we are used to, as we talked about before, like HubSpot, for example, they are already
Mm,
huge. They are gonna, I mean, they can just own the market if they integrate AI, and they have already a lot of AI features, right? So
yeah,
that's what that is something I see everywhere. The tools we are used to, and they are already big, and they're owning their market. They are already integrating AI in a lot of cases. So it's hard to compete with them. But as you said, they're gonna be some players below. Maybe they are for just some beginners or some newer creators coming in who can't afford something like HubSpot, for example, which is
yeah.
more, enterprise or big business, for example. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing. But like in your day to day, let's talk about a little bit what you are doing, because you are a
Mm,
creator as well and you create for
yeah.
Twitter and stuff like that. What's your AI workflow to actually manage your stuff? I don't know if you have something to share. I mean, I'm sure you're using some tools for it, but like for the ID generation, for everything, like when it comes to creating your content, what?
It's actually
Yeah.
really funny because I don't ideate with AI. I don't use it myself to kind of come up with ideas for the newsletter. I don't use it to come up with ideas for posts. I do use it like to create some of the posts in terms of like
Mm,
if I showcase how to use Midjourney, or if I showcase how to build something with ChatGPT, for example, or do something else, then I'll use AI to kind of create and do that. But I don't necessarily sit a lot with AI to kind of like co-create. It depends. Like some things I do where it's like more, I want to see if like I might already have something that I've been working on, and I use AI to kind of try to discriminate against me, to like poke holes in my idea, or like to kind of like come with arguments against the thing that I'm trying to do, and see like, okay, actually that's a valid argument, but if I change this, it becomes better. Like the output of what I'm trying to create becomes better. So it's almost like when I use the tools, I'm using it agnostically to like try to tell me I'm wrong, basically. Um,
that's that's interesting because I mean I spoke to Neville Medora, like it's a copywriter or stuff like that, and really really good stuff. And what he shared, and what I also do myself, is to use AI a lot for supporting content, but you need to use your own creativity to kind of fuel your main content. I don't know, that
yeah,
sounds a little bit. For example, you don't need to. If you have a YouTube channel, you might not sit there and write every description yourself. That's kind of mundane
exactly.
task.
Like, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
and then the
those.
tags
Yeah,
and all this kind of stuff, it looks pretty much the same, and it doesn't matter all that much. Like you can do it with AI. No one is gonna sit there and say, oh, it was AI. I mean, you can tweak it a little bit and make it sound like you, whatever. It's not that difficult. It's not the longest description either. So for these things, and you have already unique content. If you are doing a video like this, it's not gonna be something that AI just made up. It's gonna be a
yes,
unique
exactly.
piece of content, and I like this. That's why I love video content a lot, because you can, yeah, you can just use that, a link, and you can like generate, so many pieces from this session. We can have many tweets, we can have so many LinkedIn posts or whatever, right? So that's
Yes, it's
that's
very
what I
true.
like. Yeah, video
Yeah,
content for sure,
I
for
think
me.
video is king, and that's also something that I'm realizing. Like, I love Twitter or X. I'm never gonna learn how to
Yeah.
to say that. Um, but the problem with X is it's like the newspaper. The analogy that like whatever is in today's newspaper is in tomorrow's trash, right? Like you throw out the newspaper, it's only have a lifespan of about 20 hours, 24 hours. And I feel that's the same for like X. Like if you write a good post on X, it has maybe a lifespan of 24 to 48 hours, and then it doesn't resurface again. So for someone like me that, like in the beginning of this year, I wrote over 1,000 threads on how to use AI and how to like use Midjourney. I have all of that content locked up inside of X that doesn't get resurfaced. People don't search to find things. YouTube, on the other hand, if I had made 1,000 videos and published to YouTube, I'd be having, obviously the workload for that is completely different than writing a thread on Twitter, because like a thread on
Hmm.
Twitter you can do in like 20 minutes.
Yes.
That same thread as a video would have been like a maybe a day's worth of work. So it's obviously very different.
I have
But
something
comparing,
if you're like what I like a lot is to do these kind of interviews. I mean, even if I wanted to share my content, for example, if I wanted to share something, about virtual events or what I'm using in AI as well, I could just have someone interview me or whatever. It's like so much easier to create content this way. You don't need to feel the pressure to sit alone in front of the camera because, for example, from this session, you will have content. Like I could send you the clips after this
yes,
video, and you have a lot of content from this that you can share for probably weeks, like minute videos here and there. So that's why
yeah,
this is an easy way to, and or if you're going on podcasts, right? A lot of like Alex Hormozy and these kind
yeah.
of big guys, they are just taking clips from podcasts a lot of the times, and they are just pushing it everywhere. And
Exactly.
that's
This is the key. This is why I think
yeah.
video is so important, because like also with video, you sit down and the audience, hello everyone listening, gets to spend time with us in a much more like close proximity, right? You experience the video with all your senses, you're listening, you're viewing, very different from a tweet. Like a tweet is something that you go into, you scroll through, maybe you sit down and try, if it's an educational tweet, you try to follow along, and then like 5, 10 minutes later, you're done, you move on, you go somewhere else. So for me, like my current kind of my big thing that I'm working on is I'm setting up a studio here in Barcelona for video production, so for video creation and audio creation. So building like a full-on pod studio, building like a
That's
video
amazing.
studio. So I acknowledge like this shift in how I need to nurture and take care of my audience, but also the type of content that I wish to create more of. So it's been interesting. And then back to kind of like how I use AI, there's a few things that I do actually that is less about like generating and more about like improving quality. I try to use I ChatGPT as some custom instructions that I feed it um, to as a proofreader. So I could take like I write my newsletter, I
Mm.
push all that newsletter into ChatGPT, and I get like a proofread version out. And sometimes like it is really helpful for me because I'm not a native English speaker,
Yeah.
so grammar could be wrong or sentences could be built up in reverse order and stuff like this. So
Mm.
that really saves me a lot of time and money from using an editor, because I've tried to use an editor before, and it's all a lot of back and forth, and the editor might have like biased opinions about how some things should be done, and like the AI editor basically don't tell me stuff that's like biased. I'm just like
Is
I'm
your
getting
just a
this.
question? Is your newsletter the same format like every week? Is like a format newsletter, so you have like
It's
certain
starting. It's
points?
starting to become that.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't in the beginning, and now I'm starting to kind of like find things that resonates well with the audience, and like
Mm,
remove the things that doesn't work, and then slowly getting into this kind of like you know 3 pieces or 4 pieces of content in the
okay.
newsletter that new content every week, but it stays in this format. So
Okay.
I think that helps a lot.
No, it becomes easier to, especially if you're using some AI like like ChatGPT or something like that. But let's talk a little bit about like custom instruction. I've heard a lot of people doing. I'm doing it myself, like in the Chat GPT Plus, right? You need a Plus plan
Mm.
to do it. What's something you found working well to add there to just get better output from ChatGPT to maybe more in your voice and stuff like that? What do you add there?
Yeah, so it depends. I change. So either I use the playground in OpenAI. So like you go to playground.openai.com, and there you can also give system messages. So system messages is the same as custom instructions, basically.
Yeah.
Um, and it's kind of a way to the way I think technically this works is that it's the first piece of prompt that the model gets, and then it reads the rest. So you could ideally just put everything into your first
Yeah.
prompt, and it would be the same. But what I'm doing it for is like I have for the proofreading, it's like I have a pre-composed like contextual description for what it is I wanted to do. So instead of pasting that every single time as the first message, I just have it as custom instructions. And if I'm like doing proofreading work, I might do one or two issues of the newsletter at the same time. So it's just easier for me to just like, oh, it's there. I'll paste it. It gives me good results. I'm using some of those like mega prompt things where think this through step by step, like a lot of these things that have shown to improve the output of the model, so that is kind of baked into the custom instructions. But then when I'm doing other things, like if I'm doing like a session where I speak to the AI about mental health, or like I'm talking about me in my situation, I'm using it as like a personal coach, then the custom instructions that I have is like to give it details about me, who I am, my name, like the family and all that stuff. So it doesn't feel like a stateless conversation, because right now, and it will be potentially until the 6th of November. We don't know what's going to get released then and Developer Day with OpenAI. But right now, every conversation you have with ChatGPT, for example, is stateless. So it just has no memory. It starts from zero every single time. So to kind of trick it, like to trick yourself to kind of feel more comfortable with it, if you give it custom instructions about you and knowing you, then it seems like on the outside of things it does know you, but it's just a trick basically. But it makes the conversation easier. It makes for a better flowing kind of back and forth, because like it knows my name, it knows the family, it knows the things that I'm doing, the things that I like doing, and I can just update like, today I done this, and last week we talked about this, and let's continue.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very interesting way to kind of use ChatGPT as well.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm doing it in ChatGPT is that I'm trying to build this personal coach slash psychologist into one of my apps. And the way to do this in ChatGPT is basically like a very low fidelity prototype,
Yeah,
and
I
take my
mean, something
learnings.
I've seen, like some tools. I mean, you can basically you can upload stuff into some AI tools where you can create like a knowledge base, which is really
Yeah.
really cool. And that's kind of what you say in ChatGPT doesn't have memory. You have to start from zero. That's kind of sucks, right? So
Yes,
you have to
exactly.
like,
I think that the
yeah,
future of LLMs will definitely be memory, both
yeah,
short-term and long-term memory. This is also scary stuff
yeah,
if you talk about the ethics and the morale of it. But like for me, for example, with the app that I'm having, Sense, which it's a mental health app, like a journal slash mood tracking app. I journal there, so I get like 500 journal entries, and I can easily ingest that into a vector database. So like I can take all that information, feed it into a vector database, and then converse with ChatGPT on top of that data, so that it knows all of my personal history that I've inputted in my journals. I can also feed it images. So it's like it's a very interesting thing, because like all of a sudden this the version of this AI knows me almost better than my spouse
yeah,
knows me. So it's like I think we haven't really seen the true potential or power of large language models just yet, and it also depends on like how capable we make them, and if we do so with like safeguards in place or not. Um,
yeah. No,
yeah,
I do think this is what's gonna come to. Maybe it's gonna be more open to just ChatGPT and stuff like that you can have this, but now you can upload stuff to other platforms. I saw Mike Filsaime was demonstrating his Groove.ai platform. There's other ones you can like upload, a lot of text, and then basically they will memorize this and have this as your knowledge base. So you can also
yeah,
tell, there's with chatbots and stuff like that with AI, you can tell them to ignore everything and just focus on what's in, your knowledge base or the text you have
mm,
supplied. Let's say you have a PDF, it can only, take stuff from there, and that makes a lot of sense when you have a course or something like that. You don't want the AI to say something, incorrect, so you need to tell
yeah,
them, instructions like that. And I think that is going to be, I guess, coming even more. I think this is
yeah,
just revolutionizing customer support, and just, for especially for like small creators, like you might have a course, you can like replace like a person sitting there during your launch or something like that. You can maybe have one VA or something like that, but you don't need like a huge team if you're doing a big launch. You can do it pretty much with the help of AI to have like the answers preset, and yeah, that can take care of most of it.
yeah. Yeah, I think like the future of FAQ could be very interesting, like
Yeah,
much more alive. But we're back to the issue there, like with a lot of the things that I've been seeing now in this space, where like, oh, we're reinventing this, the knowledge base, or oh, we're reinventing the help
Mhm.
center. I'm like, well, the same issue there, right? Like if I'm not really sure what I'm looking for, where do I start? Like we see all these kind of like, oh yeah, it's a search bar. I'm like, and then you search for something and it might come up, it might not come up. So
Mhm.
I think humans are wired to kind of have some sort of structure. Like we want to have this kind of librarian approach to things, and this will transition away. I'm most certain that like the next generation will not have the same needs or the same wants as we have in terms of like, I'm grown up with the internet. I'm used to googling, I'm used to looking up things myself, and that's the truth for me.
Mhm.
Whereas like my daughter, she's 3 and the other one is a year and a half, and
Mhm.
they are born into a world where GPT-4 is their version of my Tetris. So
Basically.
the the way that they are going to look at things are going to be very different from the
Mhm.
way I look at things. And
Yeah, I think people just use Google less. They're gonna go to this
yes, of course. I mean, yes,
whatever it's called when they grow up, right? But like GPT or whatever, they will go there and just search for the answers, and it will be very accurate as well. So
the difference is that we've lived in an information society. Like we grew up without the internet, and then the internet happened, and we slowly got access to the internet, like in increments. We grew up alongside the internet, so we basically saw how the internet went from like a few thousand websites to the billions of websites that we have today. And the difference is that was information. My kids, they are going into a world where intelligence is available at your fingertips, not information, intelligence, like some sort of like symbiotic intelligence that is machine intelligence, but that resembles human intelligence. This is a very different situation because no longer are you have to be the librarian. You don't have to go and look for things. You don't have to be like, oh yeah, I'm looking for this. I wonder where it is. If I look for this, maybe this term will give me some, and then you filter information. No, no, no. You just need to be good at communication. You just need to be good at talking. And if you can do that in the future, you will get whatever you need, like this. Like, oh, I need this. Okay, here it is. Just like the thing, it will change the way society works from the ground up.
yeah, and another thing, like to optimize the workflow. Have you seen any useful plugins in ChatGPT that you have used to, make, because that's kind of where I see a lot of the power right now. At least you can integrate some more things in, especially if you use, I mean, if you're using the Plus plan, then you can use some plugins. Have you seen any
Yeah,
useful ones for your workflow there?
there are plenty. I mean, there are the standard ones that I think by they're so boring that they're useful because they're boring. The integration with like Sheets, the integration with PDF, like you can do
Uh,
that. Like there's the PDF2 plugin. There's a bunch of other things.
The one I
Um,
like is the one
Coding.
with, I think the one with Canva is pretty cool. You can like tell
Yes.
them to find, basically, if you're looking for something, you can tell, I mean, you can tell them basically you can put some instructions to find this specific kind of image or create it, or, in Canva, which is pretty cool. So that is
Yes.
nice.
It feels like it's gonna be so much. It's
Yeah.
gonna be so hard to keep track of everything because there's just gonna be an explosion of things. Where like now it's been easy because everything is new, so it's like things are plopping up. You can
Mm.
keep tabs on things, but soon we're gonna accelerate away from this, and it's gonna be as difficult as keeping up with the internet. So
Yeah,
like I
because
think the
I saw like
yeah
one database with like 6,000 plus tools or something like that. I mean, obviously, to run a business of any kind, you don't need 6,000 plus tools.
you might need
So
yeah you
you
might
need
need
just a
trees.
handful. Yeah, you need a handful, and that's why we talked about this in the beginning. Probably the tool you already use for maybe email marketing, or running your pages, whatever it is, they might have integrated AI. And Canva, I'm using this all the time. I think you also have shared a lot about design and stuff like that, because you are very
Yeah.
good in Midjourney, and obviously with Photoshop and Firefly too and stuff like that. How is this playing a role in your workflow? Do you use that a lot for your day to day to create content, or is more like to showcase the
Yeah.
power?
No,
Because I've seen like really what I like a lot is the photorealistic stuff. That, because I have
yeah.
a good camera. I do like for hobby stuff. I do take pictures during my travels and stuff. But you can do some really nice stuff with the Mid Journey and things like that right now. So how have you played around with that, and what are some tips for using this technology?
Yeah, I think Midjourney is absolutely incredible. I think all the generative AI tools are incredible. The camera is no longer like a camera. The camera is like a text chatbot.
It's sad because like
um,
I spent like 4 grand on my son, almost 4 grand on my Sony A7R Mark. Yeah, the seven Mark Five camera, whatever it is. And it's like maybe it's getting replaced. I mean, what do you think about this in general? Like, because photo, like we have a lot of creators watching this, right? So
mhm,
like maybe they are more creative. I mean, there's content creators doing like videos like this, but there's also creators who really thrive with the, the creative part that is like taking photos, editing, and things like that. What do you think about this with
sure.
this new
No, I
technology?
mean,
That is
I
interesting.
think yeah, I think what's this will continue. It's funny because like cameras, cameras came and they replaced painters. People still paint.
Yeah,
Maybe they don't paint in the same, maybe the things that we paint are not the same as we painted before, because before the camera we painted a lot of portraits. Now we still paint portraits, but it's not the primary way to get like you on the wall. It's not like you call a painter and you sit still for like 8 hours. No, you take a photo. And before we only did that in professional photo studios. You booked a time, you went there, like it was crazy. And then people got cameras at home. You got point and shoot cameras, still with film, but like people use that at home. But the professional photographers are still around. And now fast forward, we have like mirrorless cameras, digital cameras, and like I think the trend is like the global camera sales are actually going down. But we have so good cameras in our phones these days that it's just the pace of change is like it's slowly just going in one direction, but like it's like the next evolution of the technology has all the previous steps inside of it. And I think the same is true with AI, like using AI to generate images. Yeah, it's a new medium almost, because like you don't have full controllability. It's artificial. Like I cannot take like I cannot open my chat interface and take a photo of my girlfriend, right? Like it doesn't really work like that. I have to train a model with her photos. I need to do like maybe 1 or 2 hours of custom training, and then I need to figure out good prompts. And even then, I see that there are artificial photos. But if we look at this trajectory, right? I mean, we see like where we're heading. I wouldn't be surprised that in a few years' time, like you don't need to do anything. You open your phone, the phone has enough selfies of you and knows already that it's selfies of you, because like you have your face scanned with whatever face ID, or on your, if you're an Android, face unlock. um, it knows you are you. And then it goes like, hey, do you want to take like a professional photo of you, like artificially? And you're like, yeah. You're just like, okay, here's about like 100 photos of you generated for your next professional photo, for example. And you won't have to do anything. Like you don't have to train anything. You don't have to, and this is just like a next kind of normal evolutional step in this thing. We will still have photographers. We'll still have people that are
of
willing to
course.
take photos. I saw this interesting thing with the Pixel 8 Pro. I think they got released by Google, where if you take a group photo, you have the burst mode, and you have like 10, 20 people in the photo, and people are going to blink, they're not going to smile. It's like they're all going to do different things in the different takes, right? There's this feature that allows you to just like the camera will just take all the people looking, smiling, and just combine it into one photo. So it's basically a moment that never happened.
You know what's interesting as well. Like people might not realize this, but if you're really looking into the technology, like I have my iPhone here. I mean, there's so
Yeah,
much AI going on for taking
for sure.
getting this because this picture wouldn't look this good if it wasn't for AI. I mean, that's just a simple thing you're using in your day to day, where AI has been around for years, like such a long time, because they have already like put all the photos together and then they have made it like an ungrainy photo, basically, with
Exactly.
the
I
night
think
mode
this
and
is
everything. Yeah.
exactly. I think what we're seeing now is like general purpose AI. So before we had very specific AI machine learning algorithms that were like, for in Apple's case, for example, with the camera, there's like one very specific AI that was dealing with like denoising, right? And
Hmm.
that's not a very useful thing as a consumer. Like, what am I going to do with the denoiser, right? But in the stack of the camera in the iPhone, it's one crucial step, right? And then they have like a multiple sequence step that creates like, let's say the blurry background, or
Hmm.
the really nice like sign style that they have, or night mode as you mentioned.
Yeah.
But now what we're seeing is these general purpose models that have like a ton of features built in a very general purpose way. So generating an image with Midjourney, for example, there's a ton of shit going on. But as a user, you don't have to deal with any of that. Like you just have this really simple interface where you type something and you get something out.
But what are some
Um,
tips for, because you're using Midjourney quite a bit and
mhm.
kind of image AI tools. Like, what are some tips for people who want to get started with this? Because it's quite an interesting thing to at least dabble with a little bit as a creator. Maybe you can get it. I mean, this Midjourney, there's some technical things you need to know. Obviously, I did like a full class with my. I know you even have a class on this. I did a full
Yeah,
class with my partner in this project, Jan, as well, like a Midjourney mastery class, basically going into all the details. But what are some things that you have seen working well for you to create really beautiful things? Do you usually create like photorealistic or more like artsy things? What are your
I do a
preferences?
lot of realistic things, and I also do a lot of like illustrations. I
Okay.
think I'm using it for the newsletter, for the like the header images for the newsletter. I think the main tips I would give for any of these tools, like if it's Midjourney or if it's um, Stable Diffusion or Firefly, be playful. Like go in with a very playful mindset, almost like when you're a kid playing with Lego. You don't really know what you're building, but you're building something. You're starting to build, and then maybe you take it down and you build something else. I think this is the best way to kind of approach the tools and not feel pressure to get the best output straight away. There are so much kind of nuance that goes into, especially Midjourney, where the tokens or the words that you're using when you're describing what you want might be very important. Like you put one word in, and then the entire output is not exactly what you wanted because of this one token. um, so I think like being playful and then like follow me, like go on X and
Yeah.
follow me, like subscribe to the newsletter, for example, and get like a weekly kind of little like hint or tip um,
Yeah.
thing that you can do.
I
And
think what's
just
interesting
be
with
playful.
this, yeah, I think what's interesting as well, like if you're just getting started, I think Midjourney has a little bit of a learning curve, but you can also
Yeah,
buy certain prompts and stuff for this. So you like if you want a very specific thing, you can go, I think prompt base or something like that. You can
yeah,
like
from basics is yeah.
yeah, yeah, you can buy it for a few bucks, and then you have. I mean, if you want something specific, you can also play around yourself, of course. Imagine, and then you can add your parameter and everything. You can even, I think, model a camera, like if you wanted to have a specific look, which is really interesting. You can, like,
Yeah,
let's say the Leica look or something like that. You can probably do it if or a specific lens or something like that, or a specific bokeh in the background. I mean, you can. I'm sure the sky is the limit. Basically, you can go a
just
lot of
anything that you can
yeah,
describe, right? Anything you
yeah,
describe with words. I think also like a thing that people maybe not realize is you can go to midjourney.com, like their website, and you can browse like the public library of images, because everything that's being created there that is set to public is visible to anyone, and you can search. So like if you have something in mind, like oh, I want to make, I want to make this car photo, or I want to make this illustration for a website. You just search like blue illustration website, and you go through like the search results, and you can find something that's like, oh, this was interesting. I want to do something like this. You can see the prompt that was used to create that image, and then you can take that and you can like mix it or manipulate it to be even more to your liking.
yeah.
So it's a very nice thing that you can do. That's
Yeah,
also
I mean,
very
that's also like with the ethical considerations for especially image AI, but in general, right? Because I think when it comes to creating in Midjourney, I don't know if it's anyone. It's not copyrighted essentially. I think you need to like custom. I think you need to customize something like in post. Like let's say you bring in that image into Photoshop, and then you're adding like your filter or like something custom to it. Then you own it, of course. And I think a lot of
I think
yeah.
filter is not enough from what
Okay.
I've read. Even if you just put a lit file or like
Okay.
your
Maybe
whatever
you need to
image.
modify it. Like you need to
Yes,
modify the image like more.
yes,
Yeah, filter is not maybe enough because it's the same, technically the same image,
yes,
right? So yeah,
yes.
this is like an interesting thing I see a lot because then, but maybe that doesn't matter too much if you use doing like a blog image. But if you're using this in a commercial, it probably would matter. So depends on the use
Yeah.
case.
I think it depends on the company, what the
Yeah.
company is willing to do. Like, I think we're so early yet in the generative AI space that like the companies I see doing cool shit, they don't give a damn if they can copyright it or not, and I think that's to their win. And the companies that are like, oh, but we want to copyright this, I'm like, yeah, I mean, or not. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Like in the end, like,
I mean, it's like it's. I guess it's the artists that like you want to own your work. I guess, and like if you're
yeah,
taking like if you're getting inspired by like a Picasso, and then you want like and it's like questionable, like is this really original or not? But like you can also like mash things together. I think that's, I mean, in general, when you're doing things online, there's like nothing really new out there. It's like everything is like inspired from other people here and
Of
there.
course, yeah.
And I think
That's how that's
that's
how we
yeah,
work.
and you should be good as a creator. I think you should be good at mashing things together and taking inspiration from different sources, not just in your own industry. I don't know if you do that, Kurt. I mean, I'm sure you have a newsletter and stuff. I'm sure you're reading a lot of different things and taking from different sources to share value and also get ideas for new content you create as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of the content ideas I do get when I kind of take in a shower or go for a walk.
Hmm.
Like and what I do during that time is I synthesize like the impressions I've had if I read something online. It's not
Yeah.
like I'm sitting down a lot and do hardcore research. 'Cause I
Yeah.
read a lot of things. A lot of things get pushed my way, and then I could be like, "Hey, this is pretty interesting. What if I, And then I kind of come up with an idea. I either take a voice note or I just
Hmm.
like write it down into notes, and then I explore it later. And so many times, I lose my idea on the way to like getting it out of my head,
You don't
and it
use like
frustrating as hell.
don't you use like a note taking, so you like store that idea when you get it? Like otherwise
Yeah,
it's
I mean, I try to do voice notes mainly.
okay.
Like I
Yeah,
send
yeah.
either voice notes to myself or I use the voice noting app because it's just faster than me typing on the
Yeah.
phone. That's one thing I hate, like typing on the phone. It slows me down so much. And I have been anti voice interfaces like pretty much my entire adult life. I've never seen the use case of like why would I talk? Like the Alexa never really appealed to me. I got a Google Home kind of set up and I talk a lot to Google about like controlling the home, but that's it. And I'm like, but now, man, I've been using voice more in the last 6 months than I've done in my entire life.
Yeah. I'm,
Incredibly
I'm
fast.
I'm seeing this as well. Like I was never using the voice notes app, but now also like with the integration in ChatGPT, you can actually talk to it, which is really really interesting. So you like when you're out and about, it's usually easier actually than just typing. And I agree with you. It's like cumbersome to type and stuff like that when you're doing something. It's yeah, slows me down as well. So
Yeah, it's very slow. Like I think like if now we're also getting to the point where the latency of like you speaking to the AI and getting a response, like the
mhm,
latency is super low, right? So
yeah.
you can just have like an ongoing conversation with AI and you're doing something else, and you just afterwards you have a transcript of everything. So like you have like the text version of it. It was funny because when I was driving down here, I had like a 2 hour conversation with ChatGPT, like
Mhm.
the voice version, and I'm like, I wonder how big of a transcript this was. And I took out like all the text from the transcript and I put it into Google Notes. It's 80 pages. And I'm like, if I would have written 80 pages on my
My
keyboard,
God.
I would be dead. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to do it in 2 hours either.
Yeah,
Like
like it's
that.
it's like this conversation we're having. It's probably a lot of words we are speaking. That would take a lot of time to write. I mean, that's why I'm a big proponent of video, because if you're gonna write a blog post like with your own words and not using AI too much, right? You're gonna actually make it body your own experience. Gonna take you a lot more time than having like a unique video. Just you can just take this content basically. So I as I said, I like AI for the supporting content. This is like, you can take it for, or if you have a unique piece of content, you can actually just take that video and put it in, and you can get like so much out of it. And like this transcript is probably like, I don't know, a lot of words that you can just
Yes.
do a lot of things with, write a blog post, tweets, or for X and stuff like that. So lots of content. So I think like I saw even you have a YouTube channel as well, but you
Yeah.
posted some, and I think that's well, yeah, it's more work to do it, but like if you put in the work, I think it's like the search traffic and stuff like that is way, it just stays there forever basically, which is really cool to be honest.
This is what I realized, right? And then I did YouTube as a little bit of a test to see like, okay, what do I need to facilitate my needs as a creator? How do I want to create content?
Yeah.
And I'm talking to a lot of other video creators, and I think I've done enough kind of trial and error now on my end that I know what I want, the type of setup I want, and like how to do these videos. Because I'm
Mhm.
in a way I'm very lazy. I don't like to spend a day shooting or a day editing. I want my setup to be like go in, sit down, have a prompt, like have a prompter, have a camera, and just do
Mhm.
everything like as close to one take as possible. Like send it off to an editor or edit some of it myself, and then done. Um, that will lend itself to be very specific type of videos. But then again, that's what I'm comfortable doing. So
Yeah.
I I think that's also what I'm setting up here. Like I'm trying to have this kind of like a setup that doesn't change, right? I don't have to like take something up,
Yeah.
take something down,
I
take
mean
something up,
that
take
that
something down.
sucks. You know, every time I had to now in this place I'm at now, I basically have my light, my camera, everything. It's just like turn on, and then it's like looking pretty good. You know, of course,
Yeah,
you can always improve certain things, but like for what it is, it's good. You know, I think it's great, and like the same if you have like a podcast studio, you can just I mean you can bring in guests. If I'm ever in Barcelona, maybe we'll do something there. You know, so
yes.
it's yeah it's great to have things like that to do it, and especially you know where you are, Barcelona is a great hub of entrepreneurs. I'm sure you can co-create a lot of content with other creators, entrepreneurs, you know, business owners.
Yeah, I also think it's a place where like
Yeah,
it's easy to get people to come here, like, and it's easy to like, I'm in favor of doing a lot of these like fully digital ones as well, but like it's also nice to have like a place where you can actually be physical together, you can do interviews in
yeah,
person, and I think there's a differentiator in that as well. Like we obviously see what Lex Friedman is doing, 300 plus episodes, almost 400 episodes now, all in-person interviews with top minds in the world, right? So I think, um, yeah, just setting myself up to be comfortable, having my workflow nailed down, and like having the cadence. I think that will be like the most important thing. Just like figuring out like what works for me as a
yeah,
creator, and then be happy doing that, and then like
sure.
recess like every every 3 months, kind of look back and see like, hey, does this make sense,
Mm-hmm.
is it going in the direction that I want? It's funny with YouTube though, like if you publish more than 3 videos on YouTube, you're already in the like 90 top 1%, the top
Really?
2% of YouTubers.
I
Yeah,
didn't read that, but I can imagine it's something like that, right? It's like a lot of
yeah,
YouTubers. They, I mean, I haven't been. I mean, now I'm going all in with YouTube. All these things you're watching this probably in YouTube. So if you are, you can leave like you put this takeaway below, and yeah, connect with also Linus because he's gonna do more videos and also on X, of course. But you know, something we talked about a little bit, which I just kind of caught my mind again, is like the use cases of things that we can see in our day to day with, you know, for example, our phones. I think what's gonna be there, this already existing in like software we might be using. You know, Descript, right? They have
yeah,
like you know, can remove all. Let's say you talked about your AC in the beginning that might making noise. That probably wouldn't matter too much because you can, even if I had no microphone and just using the laptop mic, it's not gonna be as good as this one. But you can just bring it into a tool like Descript and it's gonna put you have like you know studio quality basically with AI. So and I think this would be cool in the phone as well. It's already existing to some degree, but it's not that great yet. You don't have that feature in the iPhone to just have like perfect audio. If you're like in a noisy place, it's gonna be pretty crap. But that would be something like that could bring it really mainstream to have features
yeah.
like this right in your phone. And I think that's coming.
Again, yeah, Google Pixel 8 Pro, it,
Yeah. I mean,
it
do they
got
have
it
like
got an app.
for the audio as well to make it
Yeah,
I don't use
like
Google's.
the denoiser, like it was like in the launch video, basically like when you're recording video, for example, you can just like
Ah.
tap the audio and just like remove
Oh, the
noise.
okay, okay. I thought you mean like for the okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
for the
no, no,
audio.
super interesting. Yeah,
That
for
is
audio. So like,
awesome. That yeah, that
I
is
think we'll
great.
see a lot more of this in our
Apple
devices.
is not the first to integrate stuff, so that will take a few generations, and that's also a lesson to be learned. Like a lot of these big companies, they might not integrate everything right away, but then they do, and it's gonna be probably the best and take over. Like a lot of these companies that have been around for a long time, we see, you know, like in marketing companies and stuff like that, they will probably
Yeah,
you go all in on AI, but they're like a little bit careful because they probably don't want to break their app or something like that with a lot of new
yeah.
features and confusing their audience. At least that's what I'm seeing. So yeah.
I think it also comes down to like the amount of compute that you have in your device. So like I think Google Pixel 8 has like the new TensorFlow, whatever it was, like has enough compute power to run this kind of like
Mm-hmm.
audio AI model locally. But it's the same with the latest iPhone, right? Like it has so much power. The new neural engine,
Mm-hmm.
like you can do a lot of executions, a lot of computation on device. We're seeing now the autocorrect has been run by an older model up until now, and now it's changed for an LLM. So it's an LLM that runs locally, but it doesn't have enough compute power to kind of like behave as an LLM that we're used to in terms of like you put something text in, you get text back, and it
Mm-hmm.
streams the response back to you at like, let's say 10, 15 tokens a second. That's how we see like the quick response coming back from like ChatGPT, for example. But
Hmm.
the LLM that runs the keyboard, it's very effective on like correcting the words that you're
Yeah.
trying to type, because it only needs to stream the next, 3 or 4 tokens or five
Yeah. Yeah.
tokens, and it has enough compute power to do that. So you can just imagine like 1 or 2 generations down with the Apple system on a chip, we might have like a local LLM that is available to respond at some type of rate that it's really
Yeah, yeah.
useful.
No, absolutely. And I think with the iPhone as well, the stabilization is incredible. I mean, there's a lot of things going on there with it. I mean, neural engine, everything that's in the phone, like that's just mind blowing. Like you can just, it's like you don't need a gimbal. I mean, as I said, you can use, I mean, I have a professional camera. It's not gonna look as good if I'm using my iPhone, but you can make it look good if you have the perfect light and stuff like that. You can even use it with, now we are recording this with Ecamm Live. I can reuse my phone to just set it up. Actually, if I have like something on top of my on my computer here, my MacBook, so I can use that as well. And you can probably make it maybe not as good of a bokeh and stuff like that as with this Sony lens with 24 millimeter 1.4, but you can do pretty decent if because that's always with you. You don't need to like if you're getting started, you can just use your phone and it's gonna look really really good, which it's exciting. It was not like this when I started like 10 years ago or something like that. It was definitely a lot harder. But Linus, like something on the on the future trends, because I seen you also have talked a lot about on your, I think you did a video on this, like with the dubbing and like Hey Gen and like
Yeah.
things like that. What do you think about this? I think this is really interesting. Do you think that's gonna be tools like that's gonna emerge, or you think that's gonna be integrated also? Let's say YouTube. Do you think that's gonna be integrated already in YouTube and it's got becoming cheaper technology in the near future or in the next few years?
Yeah, I think the if we're well, if we just reverse a little bit, like I think if we look at anything that comes out technology wise, we know that it's on a experience curve of
Hmm.
going to near zero cost. So HeyGen is quite expensive right now. It depends on how you look at it, right? Like if you have an English audience, speaking audience of 1.2 billion, and you address, let's say, 0.001% of that audience, but then you have like an interest in Hindi, for example, and
Yeah.
the Hindi speaking population is the same size as the US speaking, the English speaking population, then whatever you're paying $20 to get like your video dubbed and lip synced is nothing. Like you
Yeah,
can
the
double.
key is to get your own. I mean, the like to getting someone else's voice is pretty easy, right? You can just get the I mean,
Yes,
that's easy. But like to get your own voice, that's because they need to train in the model. Like I know 11 Labs and stuff like that. You can do a lot of these cool things. Like you can train your voice, but it takes some time. And I think I don't know, for a longer form content, maybe it's a little more expensive today. But I think will be maybe cheaper in the
it will
future.
it will get cheaper, and I think
Sure.
I wouldn't be surprised that we if we see fully FaceTime calls where like I'm speaking Swedish to you on my side, and
Yeah.
you're seeing me speaking English or Hindi or some other language on your end.
Yeah.
So like the true Babelfish, where like I just speak my language, and anyone in the world can receive that video stream live in whatever language they want. So you can imagine me speaking in one place with one camera, and then like I have 100 different nationalities looking at that content
Mhm.
in 100 different
Yeah,
languages
because this
in real time.
benefits the platform. What is the goal of a platform like YouTube or Facebook or X? They want to keep people on the platform. If they don't
Yes,
understand what's going on, how can they possibly check? I mean, they can maybe translate in some way. Now it's easier to do that. You can go to like YouTube transcript, take the video. You can like, but it's still some steps. It's like easier to connect with someone if they would understand the words, right? You can connect more with the person. So I think that just benefits the platform that they stay longer. So I think they will probably bring this more, in house, so people just have this technology accessible.
yeah, I think one way to look at this is kind of the network effect, or like the power of a network. Like, um, the network law is essentially stating that like the value or the power of the network is the number of nodes in a network. So if you look at Facebook as a product, or if you look at Meta as a company, like they have 3.2 billion monthly active users. So that like it's almost 60% of the internet population, right? So pretty strong network effect and pretty strong network value. And if we look at me as a Swedish speaking person, There's 10.5 million people in the world that speak Swedish. Most of my conversations that I had in my life up until I was 25 happened in Swedish, which means that my entire network of potential value is like made up of 10.5 million nodes. And I could never kind of break out of that. And if I didn't know like a second or third language,
Mm.
um, and if you're speaking English, that goes up to then be 1.2 billion. If you speak, let's say, Mandarin, or if you speak Hindi, it goes up to another 1.4 billion again. So, but still, you can only speak to about half of the world's population. So, like
Mm.
your node, the network effect is still just half of what's out there. But like, if we have this true way of communicating without borders, without kind of information loss, um, all of a sudden the entire world is able to communicate with each other in the natural language that they speak.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty incredible things. I'm very bullish on this whole kind of translate anything that AI can do to kind of increase the way we communicate. Anything that brings the barrier of communication down, I think it's a global win. Like it will break down barriers. It will make it easier for me to like reach out to someone I would never reach out to that doesn't know English, or that doesn't speak Spanish, or that doesn't speak Swedish, which is a lot of people, obviously. And I can have a conversation with them in their natural, like they lingua materna, like their mother tongue, right? Like it becomes very personal. And if we then take that and multiply that by 8 billion people in the world, it's a profound difference in how we see each other, how we meet each other halfway. And I think in the world as it is right now, the world is too polarized. You're either this or that. You're black and white. It's a binary. And we need less of that. And I think we need more kind of like, we're different. Embrace our differences, right?
Hmm.
Agree to disagree. Meet each other halfway. Life is, not black and white. It's nuanced. It's so many shades of everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think AI can really help with that. And it might be boring in all of this stuff. It's like, so translation is like the killer app. And I'm like, yeah, potentially, potentially transcreation or translation is the killer app for AI.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just don't have the killer app there yet, or like the killer user interface for it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think this is going to be exciting. I've traveled a lot in Latin America, all over the world as a global citizen living out. I haven't lived in Sweden for a long, long time. So I know, the barriers with languages and, meeting people, they don't speak English. That would be really exciting also to, bring my content to a whole different audience because I know they could benefit from maybe something like this, right? Learning about different things. And I know, for example, in Spanish, there's not too much, as much content as in English. And the same, I guess, in Swedish, I would say.
Yeah,
But I mean, Swedish people typically speak pretty good English. So, but in the Latin world, it's not the same. So they are missing out on a lot of great value because what I see in this market, which is interesting, was I've traveled a lot there, they're more like entertainment. They love to watch, like, to me, it's a little bit pointless, but I mean, they are creators, but there doesn't exist too much like great education as in the English speaking market, which I've seen. So they could probably benefit from having things like this accessible in an easier way. And I think that's just gonna, come very soon. And it's already here basically. But and already
yeah,
some creators are translating their content. eh, More expensive. It's usually like more seasoned creators that are doing that. I've seen like Neil Patel, which is a big market. They translated his
yeah.
blog for years. Lewis House is a big podcaster and personality online, and he's translating his YouTube videos. It's not his voice; it's someone else. He doesn't speak Spanish, Portuguese that well, I think. So he's having someone else. But with this new technology, although more expensive, you could do it. But I don't know what would be the difference. Maybe he's already paying a lot for these translations right now to get it dubbed, right? So maybe
Yeah,
he would just use his own voice instead. I mean that would be better connection with his audience because you can sync the lips, right? So it would be pretty
exactly.
amazing. That would be like basically watching his English content with perfect sync and everything. So yeah, I mean it's so exciting what's coming. So just to wrap this one up, Linus, do you have any final words of wisdom for a creator to get started with AI before we kind of say goodbye here?
Cool.
Yeah.
It's difficult. Like, words of wisdom.
Yeah, or like any tips or anything like that you want to share before you kind of wrap this up. Obviously, people can connect with you and things like that too.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, like, mm, I you know, people might have different, they might look at this differently. Like some people might be very interested in it, some people might be a little bit afraid. I can imagine in the audience there might be like people that are, I've tried but I don't really know what I'm going to use it for, or like, yeah, I've heard this but I feel like it's unethical. I think the approach that everyone needs to kind of take, or like the lens that you need to take on, is like, hey, here's some new technology, right? And we see new technology come along all the time. This time it's slightly different because this technology is like fundamentally changing how we're doing things from the ground up in basically any vertical that exists. So having a playful, I think, mindset towards this, and not being judgmental, just like being going in and being like, hey, this is like a new toy. You're 10 years old, you got a new toy, you love it, you're going to play with it until you make your mind up whether or not like it's useful for you or not. And while doing that, you also kind of priming your brain and priming yourself to kind of like see what's possible, and get an idea or like a sense of like, okay, this is interesting, this is pushing in this direction. I didn't understand, I didn't see this, or I didn't understand this when I first heard about it. I think it's important that we realize that some people that are going to get really, really good at using AI tools will 10x or 50x or 100x themselves in terms of like how well they're able to perform. And if you are not tagging along for the ride, the divide between you as a person not using these tools and the people that are using this tool is going to be so wide that you're never going to be able to catch up. So that's why it's a little bit of a dilemma where you need to pay attention. You don't necessarily need to love it, but if you're paying attention, you're doing your homework, then you're like 98% of the way there.
Yeah.
I think this is like the most important thing that I can kind of like tell and stress. Like, we need to make sure that as many people as possible get along for the ride.
For sure, this is great words. And what's your X or Twitter handle so people can
It's my name,
look
so
you up?
it's Linus Ekenstam, or Linus Ekenstam.
Like, cool.
Um, so it's LINUSEKENSTAM.
Awesome.
And
Yeah, I'll
then
link up some of the resources we talked about, and also so you can connect with Linus. Obviously, he's also on YouTube, but
yeah,
he's gonna
same
try to
handler, and
yeah,
then
same handle. Put some more YouTube videos out there with tutorials
yes,
and stuff like that. Really useful. Follow him on X, and I think it's on Instagram as well. But I'll leave the resources, and also be sure to leave your biggest takeaway below here. To, was something resonating? We talked a lot about the advancements in AI and kind of what to think about as a creator and how this can affect you in the future and things like that. I think was some really, really useful things. And be sure to subscribe to the channel for more if you like this. And we might bring Linus back at some point as well here, or maybe I'll go to his studio in Barcelona at some point. So that could be interesting. But yeah, this was really awesome. And thanks, Linus, for coming on here. And I'll
yeah,
talk to you
appreciate it.
guys very soon. Ciao.